Hola familia. So, giving you guys a tour of Magangue, the Magdalena River. If you've never been to Magangue, this is a very old port town. It was really important during the initial colonization of Colombia. This was a big port for a lot of boats to bring in supplies. Still is. If you can see kind of right there, they're putting a bunch of Coca-Cola, juices, supplies for whatever town they're going to on their voyage up the river. So you'll see quite a few boats still here. At one point this was a little bit of a tourist destination as well, early in the steamboat era. So whatever years, the 19th century, early 19th century. Apparently there was an accident on one of the steamships here. Nobody died, but the steamship sunk. And since then, Magangue's never really rebounded as a tourist destination. Mostly just for shipping and commercial usage. It's an interesting town. It's a dirty town. It's a smelly town, but it's also very beautiful in a lot of ways. As you can see behind me, their method of disposing of the trash in these restaurants up here that you see all along the wall is just to throw everything over the side of the wall, which eventually ends up in the river, which eventually ends up into the sea. So if you've ever seen any of my other videos in the past, I kind of walked you through some of the Magdalena River, but for those joining, my name's Ryan. I am, I guess you would say, an expat or somebody who is looking to reconnect or understand more of my Colombian heritage. I was born and raised in the US. I've never really lived in another country. I've traveled quite extensively throughout the US and about 8 other countries, so compared to some of you guys, I'm definitely a rookie. But last year I decided that I was going to attempt to live here in Colombia. I ended up going back to the States for about 6 months, and now I'm just getting back about 2 months later. So if you followed me in any of the other videos, you kind of know the backstory, but I'm starting this new channel and this new way of being able to show off different parts of Colombia that aren't necessarily all over social media and in the YouTube. Magangue is not a city that people come to visit often. Unless you have family here, there's really no reason why you would be here. If you're passing through to go to, let's say, Monpos, which is a little bit more touristic, then you might see a portion of Magangue. But it's very uncommon, and they don't have quite as many tourists as they do in other places. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm the only American gringo tourist here right now. I've been told that several times by people, that I'm probably the only American here right now. This is a part of Colombia that, when you hear of the dangerous part of Colombia, or if you think about the scary part of Colombia, this might be one of those towns. But I can tell you, people here are just the same as they are everywhere else. It's just all a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of what kind of energy you're looking for out here. But for the most part, people are good. And as you can see, they kind of, I'll explain as I'm walking, they kind of built like a trench for their slop that they just throw over, and then it just kind of rolls down the hill and back into this river, into eventually the ocean. So you see a lot of contamination, a lot of garbage, a lot of things you don't want to see near water, right? You don't want to see plastic and garbage near a beautiful river like this, but it's unfortunately one of their biggest ways of disposing of stuff. So I'm kind of hanging out where these boat captains hang out, or kind of take a siesta. Right now it's 2 o'clock. It's super hot. I don't know why I'm even out here doing this, but it's usually a good time of day to come out here because there's not a lot of people. And they don't have a lot of people filming themselves here in their town, so I'm definitely getting stares, but I'll get used to me doing this, I'm sure. But you can see this beautiful river here. I believe if you float down this way for about 3 hours, you'll run into a city called Monpos. I'm sure eventually I'll take us there or show you guys around. And if you go this way, and I'm probably butchering this because I'm watching it move, so other way around. This way the sea, this way to Monpos. Monpos is an old colonial town too, very old architecture from the Spanish days of them conquering Colombia. It's a beautiful historical heritage site. There's sites from when the slave trade was very active here. So there's sites that kind of, you know, teach and highlight that time, and really it's surreal because you can step right off the dock where a slave would have probably set foot, you know, maybe for the first time on dry land, or maybe the first time in Colombia. So there's an energy there, and a very surreal moment when you're walking on a dock that was used for slave trade, and you know that human beings were sold just steps from where you're standing. The energy and that vibe is still there. But it's a beautiful city, and they've actually turned it into kind of a sleepy town that lights up once or twice a year. So once or twice a year they'll do these huge worldwide festivals. People from all over will come. Magangue has a day like that too. It's called Festival of Boca Chico. It's a type of fish that's fished right out here. It's a bony, sweet fish. You have to be very careful. It's a skill to eat it. If you can eat it correctly, you'll avoid the spiny bones and you'll just get the meat. But if you're not a good Boca Chico eater, like I wasn't, or still not that great at it, then you end up just, I can feel the bones in my throat right now, but you end up actually swallowing some of the bones and it cuts your throat all up. It's not fun. So if you're eating a fish bone, you know what I'm saying. But this is my favorite spot in Magangue, especially on a hot day. It's about 40 degrees Celsius, so just about 90 degrees, maybe a little more Fahrenheit. 2 o'clock, so it's one of the hottest parts of the day. Right now people are coming back to work. They take a siesta usually from about 10 to 2, and now everybody's kind of coming back into work. I felt like showing off the Magdalena River here and just starting this video off with that. So now we're walking past where these restaurants are. These restaurants serve the Boca Chico. Think of them as little fish fries. They'll serve it usually with a portion of rice and a soup. You'll get a juice and a little salad as well. And that'll probably cost you all of $5. Really great deal, great food. Some of these shacks have been here 40 plus years. I've talked to some of the ladies that have been cooking there and asked them how long they've done it. Some of them told me it was their grandmother's and now it's theirs, and now they'll probably pass it on to their daughter. So hopefully they keep this place alive. It's kind of a, I don't guess you could say, they're like a treasure of Magangue. I can't think of Magangue without these ladies behind us and them cooking the Boca Chico. They also serve a fish called bagre, which is really, really tough, but the way they cook it, it kind of loosens it up. But it's a really beautiful fish. It has like these awesome leopard stripes on it. Hopefully I'll be showing pictures of this too while I'm talking about it. I don't know what the story is with this boat right here. That looks like a boat that could go out to sea. Maybe throw, you know, a nice sound system in there and you got a party. It's a big pimpin' yacht right there. But these little guys right here, these are all little taxis, if you want to think of them like that, little water taxis. They're not touristy looking. Like, I think when you think of these boats, I've been on these kind of boats before where you go on like a tour of island where you kind of get to see around. But these are designed exclusively just to take people from this side to the other side. There's towns that if you go down there, there's a town called Monte Cristo, which is about 3 hours away. My family has a farm in. I'm not allowed to go because apparently there are still active guerrillas fighting there. So if you know any of the history of Colombia, you'll know they've been engaged in civil war for a big part of the history of at least in the last 40 years. It's calmed down. There was, I guess you'd say, some negotiation with the new president. The new president was actually a guerrilla at one point. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, a lot of people here say it's a bad thing. They were really scared when he became president. But I guess he negotiated some kind of ceasefire. But there have been attacks in this town up until 2002. I think was the last recent attack. It really started in the 60s, and it didn't really calm down until about then. And so the scars are still here. The distrust is still here in a lot of ways. There's like a pain in people's eyes, especially the older generation. But these younger kids are becoming more like TikTokers and Instagrammers and themselves. You know, they're a little bit more up to speed. But I noticed that people that grew up in that time, they still have that. My dad has 2 big gates to block our house. I find it totally unnecessary. I think it's like living in a jail some days. But he still has that memory of when that double gate would have probably been necessary. We don't leave anything out. Everything is locked, even down to the chickens, you know, because there's just this fear that the guerrillas might come back or that people might start to steal again, because when the guerrillas come, they'll usually choke the town off from the rest of the world, and so they can't get supplies, they can't get things that they normally would have gotten. So your homestead could really be your life save, or your homestead could really save your life and your family's life. It could feed your family, because a lot of people do grow their own food, which is really great to see. It doesn't have to be really farmy. Some people are growing gardens just right in the suburbs, or they're owning chickens. We're seeing more and more of that happen in the States. I think the big thing now for people dreaming is, for a while they wanted to live in vans and cars, and now I think the big one I see from people is that they want to have their own homestead. And that's, I feel like, a beautiful thing. I think that's really something that we should probably all strive for more, is to grow our own food. The eggs that I eat here are better than any eggs I've ever eaten in my life, and they come from our backyard. Same with some of the vegetables. But here, we're gonna walk down, keep this walk going. Kind of like this is better. We'll edit out anything we don't need. Everything to me here is amazing, but it's also very sad to see all this trash here. It's a shame, and it's unfortunately all over the beaches and rivers of this country. Every place I've been to where there's water, especially, there seems to be a lot of pollution. In the big cities, they have more of a service, so you can go to certain neighborhoods that are really clean, and then you go to some neighborhoods that are unfortunately not as predominant or not as wealthy, and they will usually have garbage everywhere. You can hear that music playing. That's a bar. Now's a great time. It's Saturday just to have a beer and relax. This is really no reason to be outside right now, especially with as hot as it's been. So I'll just keep walking. I'll walk past this group of amigos here. They're gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Well, I'm gonna walk past this group of amigos. They're probably gonna be curious why there's a gringo talking to a camera. Hola, buenas. She said, yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? I said, yes. But here, we're gonna look at this. That beautiful church is the Cathedral de Magdalena, which is what the river is named after. The river is a big, important part of the city. Again, this city is called the City of Rivers because there are two major rivers that cross through here. The Magdalena being the bigger one. I forget the name of the other one, so I'll post it right here. But when I first came to Colombia and I told people where I was going, they couldn't believe it. They're like, why would you go here? The more I'm here, the more I like it. This is definitely not a place you're gonna save all your money and it's gonna be on your bucket list and you're gonna be bragging to all your friends that you went here. Probably not. But it exists. And my family moved here about 40 years ago. My dad moved here about 40 years ago. And he met my stepmom here. And now I have a little brother who is an awesome dude, very smart, very well educated. He received one of the few scholarships that they give in the country to go to any college you wanted. Right here in Magangue, they picked candidates of all these small towns. But when I tell you, you come to Colombia, you always want to have your head on a swivel because people can just run up and snatch your stuff, especially on a bike. So for the last few videos, or at least the last month, I've been recording myself. I've been recording on my cell phone, which is a great way to get yourself shot in the face. And I mean that kind of literally. There was a guy that had a phone here. Probably wasn't even that nice of a phone. So the story that, you know, my stepmom's telling me over dinner. Just more scary stories. They love to tell you the scary stuff and the bad stuff. So we're talking, and she says, you know, be careful. There was a guy recently that was on his phone outside. Some guy showed up on a motorcycle, kind of like that. We'll show up on a motorcycle real quick. They'll stick a gun in your face. And if you're not quick to give up what they want, they'll shoot you. So the poor dude that didn't give up his phone fast enough got shot twice right here. And he lived, thank God. But it just shows you like how cheap life is for some people here. I mean, it can happen probably anywhere. But the big thing that they steal here is phones. So if you come to Colombia and you're flashing a brand new iPhone from the States, you know, just be careful. So I figure the worst thing that can happen is they'll steal this GoPro. I could always buy another GoPro a lot cheaper than I could buy an iPhone here. So let's walk through here. So this is another common thing. You always gotta watch where you're walking in Colombia. Watch your step, keep your head on a swivel, because if you look down, the roads and the sidewalks don't always have pavement. You see, as I just had to duck down, there's stuff you'll run smacking into. It's a nice perspective. I look like such a tourist right now. Alright, so that right there is ice cream. So that big motor is powering the freezer for his ice cream. I'm trying to like go on a no or low sugar diet, and being in Colombia is probably the worst place to do that. there is sugar in everything that they eat and drink, I feel like. I've had 3 cavities since I've been here, and I've only been here 2 months. Before I came here, I had no cavities. Hola. Oh yeah. This is kind of nice. Like, I could play the lost gringo tourist. People seem to be a lot nicer. The people in Magangue are not like the other people in Colombia. They're a lot more cautious, I've noticed, than a lot of the cities. Whereas, you know, what we hear a lot about Colombia is how nice they are and friendly they are, and they're very nice. They are very friendly. But those are usually people that are going to touristy places where they're very used to seeing tourists and interacting with strangers. They don't see that a lot here. So they don't really know how to act. They just kind of look at you like, who are you? What are you doing here? But as soon as you engage with them, they're nice. But this is a town that does not trust its neighbor as much as you would kind of like to see. Oh, this is a really cool part. Kind of need some shoes, but when you buy shoes here, they're not always legit. These kind of look like they're not total knockoffs. Those look like they're used. We got some trainers here. You'll see a lot in Colombia, Nike, Adidas, stuff like that, but a lot of them are bootlegs from China. Oh, look at this. Look at that spaghetti sauce. Wow, this is a cool part of town. I've actually never walked through this. It's shaded. It's got a nice breeze. I don't know why there isn't more people here right now. Well, like I was mentioning, the people here in Magangue are people from Magangue here. Their lineage or heritage goes back to the Magangue tribe that was here. The Magagaleños are basically like an indigenous tribe that really has different features than, let's say, me, right? They're short, dark-skinned, stocky builds. Whereas I'm taller, more light-skinned, and definitely not from here. So you'll see the difference here just in the coast is the shade of color, right? The people, as you get closer to the sea or you get closer to the ocean, they're called costeños. Costeños are a lot darker than, let's say, cachacos, which would be people from the inland, more like city folk is the best way to call them. So they call me a cachaco, or they'll confuse me for a paisa, which a paisa is somebody from Medellin, have similar features. So when you go to Colombia, a lot of people aren't aware, or a lot of people aren't prepared to know or to see that we come in different shades too. You could meet somebody on the coast who still has a very strong African lineage or African bloodline, right? Or you could go to the coast and you'll see that there's a very Afrocentric culture still alive and well there. You see a lot of the dances and a lot of the traditional art and a lot of the folklore that's still there and comes from those times or the African root. I noticed a lot of folks from, especially America, like a lot of African Americans will come to Colombia, or especially in Cartagena, because they can see that heritage, you know, about as close as, you know, a 3-hour ride from Miami versus having to go all the way to Africa. You can see it in the Caribbean everywhere, that African influence. So it wasn't just all, you know, only in America, right? This was going on all over the world. One thing I like about here is it's still very much preserved, and it's a proud part of Colombian culture. I can't imagine Colombia without that African, you know, culture, vibe, color, style, whatever. It would not be the same country. And then you still have the Italian and European influence too, and the Spanish influence. In this town, there's a lot of folks from the Middle East, a lot of folks from Turkey, Turcos. This was a big place for Italians just here in Magangue up until about the 1960s. There's still traces of that left. You'll even see occasionally an Asian influence here because there was so many different people coming from the trade days when Magangue was a huge port. But since about I would say the early 19th century, it's just slowly become more and more isolated. It was designed and built, and you can see from the architecture where it kind of stopped in about the 60s when the internal conflict started. But it's kind of been cut off in a lot of ways from the rest of Colombia, or kind of forgotten, I like to think. But the people that are here are still here. They're keeping it alive and well. It's a different place. It's hard to put a finger on Magangue. It's a survivor, and the people here are survivors. Probably tell by the video, but I'm sweating hard. So that cool looking Jeep is a colectivo. You jump on a colectivo like you would like a bus or any kind of other public transportation. It costs about 50 cents and it'll take you from one end to the other. Well, this has been our little tour of Magangue. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Hopefully we can get some more videos of some of this, but I just took a big, huge lap. Now we're back to the Magdalena River. But if you're enjoying this, shoot me a like or subscribe. Honestly, I was excited when I saw my first 3 subscribers. So maybe I can double that. Maybe I can get 6 by the end of the week and I'll be really excited. But there's not a lot of stuff on Magangue. I know there's a ton of stuff from other places in Colombia, but Magangue, if you pull it up, it's very poor coverage on YouTube. I think the coolest video I ever saw is a lady on a tricycle, and she had the guts to ride through all of Colombia on this thing. So she inspired me. I mean, if this sweet looking lady from America who doesn't speak a lick of Spanish has the guts to walk around the hardest parts of Colombia, then I don't have any excuse. So I want to show more and more of this off. But I'm gonna catch you guys. I'm gonna turn off and maybe go find me a nice cold water. That's what I'm limiting myself to now. But today would be a good day for just a beer and just to hang out. Maybe one day. All right, guys. Take care of my family. Love, respect, honor. Do something nice for somebody today, or do something nice for yourself. Peace.